Welcome to the HVAC Implementers Podcast. My name is Dave Peppelman. Alongside me is Cameron Hall.
And you know it, brother.
That's
We are
right.
back
We're
here
gonna
for another episode, Dave, and I'm so excited for the topic that we're going to be talking about today.
be talking about sales. Everybody loves sales. You love the numbers, might not love the sales people, but we're
Yeah.
gonna bring that love together.
That's
you
right,
know?
man. And we're going to talk about, all the ups and downs of sales, the positives and negatives, and all the hard work that.
Today's episode, we're going to focus on the sales and the trades industry. We're going to focus on how salespeople, as well as the managers, and how we can look at it overall and how we can really grow your company at whatever stage that you might be in, the pocket coach, the implementer coach, or the mentor package. Whatever stage you're at in your business, we are here to help. And we have this show tailored to bring you a little bit of insight, one way that you can implement, get better with your business so that you can grow with your sales and with your salespeople. And so, yeah, to start things off, Cam, I know you've been sitting there. You're just waiting to get some rant out.
I'm
So
chomping at the beat. Yeah.
So as we're going to talk here about sales, I think it's just perfect that we start bringing up as we talk into sales. Let's start to talk about your rant of the day.
That's right. Today's rant of the day is simple. It's top 5 sales complaints for the HVAC business. Number 5, unprofessionalism, rude behavior, lack of courtesy, poor communication skills from techs or customer service. Dave, what is your thought on number 5, unprofessionalism?
I mean, all of them hit in different aspects of your company. Some days the unprofessionalism could be really big. Some days it's not. But ultimately, all those things come up when you talk about what sales. And what was that first one that you said there, Cam? The top one?
Rude behavior.
Rude behavior. We never have that. We're dealing with salespeople. You know what I mean? They're the cream of the crop. They're the top dog. They're the one walking in looking so fly because you know what? They're the one that he's going to bring in the big sale, bring all that money to the company, and everybody's like, "Oh man, I wish I could do sales." But then when they find out what they have to do in sales, they're like, "Maybe not. Maybe it's not worth the aggravation." Right. And then you have the managers that are like, "Oh, here comes the salesman in today. He's feeling good. He's sold this big job, but you know what? He didn't realize what he cost the team the previous day of all the issues." So whatever the emotions may be, our salespeople, we need to keep them energized. We need to keep them focused because they are a walking billboard of our company. And so the more that we handle them and encourage them and work with the sales process, it's going to take that positive energy and flow it across the whole team. But if we allow the rude behavior, it's not only going to affect our team and infiltrate within, but it also then gets out to the customer. And the last thing we want to do is upset that salesman when he's got to go out or she's got to go out to go ahead and represent the company, bring in the revenue, and we need them to be supported. So I love those top 5 and very good.
And here's number 4, Dave. Lack of transparency. Customers may feel misled about pricing, warranties, and extending of service.
You know, we're all focused on getting that yes. We miss some of the crucial parts that a customer is looking for. You know, they're looking to partner. Here's my money that I'm going to exchange with this service. And when we don't focus on that longevity, as we're going to get into it further on, the customer is going to feel a little bit of, oh man, you know, I didn't get what I was truly looking for. This person's saying it's a dollar figure. I'm looking at what value I'm going to get out. And that's why we have them get multiple bids, because we didn't deliver the value. We didn't meet where they need to be. And so depending on what your type of customer that they are and going to shop around and look for the value in your services of what you offer in a company, we have to focus on, you know, what is going to be the most beneficial for that client who is purchasing your services than to what we really want to sell out there.
That's right. Number 3, unreliability, late arrivals, missed appointments, unresponsive customer service. That's number 3.
Yep. You know, Cam, as well as I, when we have something to go on with our house, we already have it set up. we let everybody know. We organize our day, and communication on that. We understand things come up. You have traffic, you have an issue, whatever it might be. But really, in sales, we got to be on time, because you set yourself so much at a disadvantage when we're not set up there and we're not clearly communicating with the
Mm,
customers. Why not make it happy that they're waiting for you at the door, and they're saying yes? I've been communicating with them 3 or 4 times before I even see them. That now that sale has one less obstacle, one less barrier you got to overcome because of our effective communication. And so that takes a team effort to do that effectively.
correct. Number two, high costs. Customers believe they were overcharged. No way.
Cam, you bought a system, so you're
Don't bring
perfect
me up.
example, of when you bought that investment, and you feel, at the time they were hitting all the needs, all the wants of what you were looking for, and that solved it. Okay. You didn't want to be in a hot home over the summer with an upset family who wasn't comfortable. Okay.
Mhm.
But there is some buyer remorse when you look at it and say, wow, I spent this much. What did I get out of it? And so we have to make sure that we have systems, we have options, and it's their home. Well, let's make it comfortable for them and what they see in value.
Correct. And I feel like David Letterman, the number one response today was poor service quality, ineffective repairs and installation, and most importantly, maintenance services. These were your top five sales complaints for the HVAC business. And this has been Cameron's rant of the day.
That's right. And you know what? That is the number one thing we can control. And people think that they need to have a perfect sales process, need to have the right salesperson, they need to have the right team behind it to manage them. But these are the things that we can control, is what separates us and what makes us different. And that's at the end of the day. Don't leave your screws on the floor, don't leave the
Right.
trash outside, don't damage their grass. Be respectful of their home. You're a guest in their home for a few hours at one time, and you're exchanging a great deal of value. So you're right, exactly, Cam. We need to bring that value, but that's ultimately what we can control. And if we don't do it effectively, then yes, that's what stops us from getting that repeat business.
That's
And so,
absolutely
yes,
correct.
so let's dive in here. Let's look a little bit more of what we can do for our contractors, and show them how we can grow this business. Um, One thing when we touch in here with the salespeople, everybody thinks it's, Joey Bag of Donuts, is our salesman. I mean, it's a sly guy. He's going to come across, he's going to wheel and deal. They feel like they need to have their spouse around. They need to hide their wife and children.
Oh,
They just
jeez.
don't know what's going to happen. And what we need to do is we need to not give that persona. All right.
Mm,
We're not in there to sell them something. We're in there to educate them, to be a value buyer, so that they find the value of what they're looking for, and they choose us as the recipient of who they want to have to do business with. And so we have that stigma. We got to get past that. Let's not continue to infiltrate that into our business. And so one of the good movies that I love with sales is and Tommy Boy is your trade service professional. He's in there in the car business, and he's selling products that affect people right away. We all have vehicles, we're all driving, we all have family, we have a lot of value into what we put in our cars. And so some of the things that he touches point on as he's riding along and trying to learn in the steps of his father, is that business isn't just about the money and just about how he can sell with a technique. Once he really dives down in and meets the customer at where they're at, he's able to relate with them. He's able to create a relationship and then help build it. And so that's what we're going to do here with this, is we're going to look at the three different stages and take some of these techniques and how we can grow. But it's a great movie to also bring you back as a salesman to say, hey, this is where we need to be, to make sure we're selling value instead of trying to hit a sales technique.
correct.
And so wherever you're at with managing your sales team, you might have just one salesman, you might have multiple, you might have it separated based off of your industry. Wherever you are, make sure that they clearly know where the salesperson is, the comfort consultant, whatever you might call them, is that the team knows how to support them and where they can support with your team as well. And so all the managers and who they directly report to, we need to have that effectively communicated. So make sure when you're talking with your salespeople, you know exactly who they should report to and how they can help affect their team, because they are a big team player. And so one of the things we dive in, people often ask me is, I need more sales. I need more sales. If I just had more sales, okay, better quality salesperson. I can't find the right salesperson. All right. And the other part is how do I close higher amount of sales, all right, or get a better sales closing rate? And so all of these questions commonly come from, where is our people, processes, and systems? How well are we focusing on what takes to get a good sale, than not just the result of a good sale? And so focus on what we can contribute into the sale. And that's where, at all these stages, even if you're not in that stage, you can look at how you can grow your team, grow your salesperson, and increase the value that you're delivering. And so as we start with you pocket coaches, all right, you are mostly the salesperson. you're the service tech and the salesperson, your customer service, your HR, you're everything. All right. So when the homeowner is meeting with you, there's a tremendous value that you will not get when you get bigger and you do multi-million more in business. You're going to get further and further away from that touch with the customer. And so how do we generate more sales? Well, right now, this is where you're going to set the foundation for what it is for your team to see, okay, how can I generate more sales? And so we look at, what do I need to close sales effectively? Are we doing a sales process of what we would expect somebody we're going to hire that's going to do this position full time? Do we even have a sales process? Most of the time, no, because you're the one who is the face of the business. They have dealt with you personally. They've built that, developed that rapport with you, and so there is no real sales process other than presenting yourself. But think about it. If you're going to have somebody else do your sales process, you got to build that value. You got to show the before and after pictures. You got to tell the customer, here's a flyer. This is what I do. This is the guarantees that I'm offering. I'm here with you until this system is ready to be replaced in the next 10 to 12 years. So to generate more of these sales, we have to look at what we're doing. Are we offering options? Are we talking about extended warranties? Are we talking about maintenance with them? Are we offering them maintenance? And so these are all the things that we need to do, and do it effectively, so that when we do have a salesperson in place, we already have that in process. So it's good to start early to effectively do that process.
Definitely. Well, Dave, we got our first question for this pocket coach. Becky asks, as an owner myself, is it a good idea to hire an implementer or a financial assistant once a month to look over my sales?
You know what? I think it's a great question. And Becky, I like where you're looking at it, because you're looking forward into the investment with your sales professional. And so yes, financial numbers are a big concern. A lot of times people at this stage are like, I don't want to have a salesman come in here. They're going to take away my profits, or they're making more than I am. And all those things that come up is just because we didn't support a company and a structure to support them properly. So financials are a big portion. They're going to be bringing in sales, but we want to make sure that we're also bringing the right profit for our company. And so having somebody as a second opinion to look at it, mainly because we want to make sure that we have the right structure for it. So a lot of times when I help out with contractors, they aren't even charging properly. And so a lot of guys at this stage are taking time and materials and they're doubling it and figuring that's what I'm going to have as my sale price. They don't even have commission built in. They don't have the proper amount of commission built in. And so these are things you need to look at, because sales is universal across the whole board. But especially as you're starting to give a salesperson commission, it can definitely drain down your profit, affect the productivity of getting the job done. And so that is a great question. So I like where you're looking at it, Becky. Let's continue to look at the situation of, okay, how do I prepare and build this salesman effectively?
Thanks, Becky.
And the next one is, now we're at the implementer stage. Okay. And so a lot of times we had a salesperson out there. They came from another company. They were a tech who moved up and did really well at selling. And, we rely on that person. It's like, great, that person has sold a lot. But to do it effectively, to get that closing rate over 40% and get it as high as 60%, we need to make sure that we're touching our customers in whatever avenue they are of buying. Okay, whether they're a price shopper, a value shopper, or they're looking at your long term services or specific brand, whatever it might be, we need to make sure that when we present, we're touching all those points, even though they might not bring it up to you. They might say, "Hey, I'm getting 3 bids. I'm looking at the lowest one." They might not really be looking at that. What they're telling you is that they want to make sure that maybe they're getting the best value. And so when you bring up and have a sales presentation, you'd be surprised. It adds that level of professional ability. It lets them show that here, these are all the things that we value in an installation, and this is what we need to do to set that stage, because as we start having more and more people behind us, it's going to cost us. Our expenses are going to go up, but we need to make sure that we're delivering great value to our customers. And what you can do at the next stage, you might not be able to do at your current stage, because you haven't invested into it. So that's where I need to be. Start looking at a sales presentation. Just have something go simple. Bring pictures, laminate them, show them and through a flip book, whatever it might be. Even have it on your phone. Make a short little video, something to go over these important things, and what makes you different. And so some of the key points is, make sure it's the services you provide. A lot of them don't know all the services you provide. What is the reason why you have your business? What is your long-term goal? What makes your company different? Show before and afters of what your pictures. A lot of contractors, when I speak with them, that's the biggest thing I do, is I learn a lot about is show me what you say is a great install. And then guarantees. Show the customer you're in it for the long haul. All right. If they see everything as being, oh, I only offer 1 year, I don't believe in the warranties, they don't think you're going to believe into them and want to be a part of them long term. And so we need to have that when we go ahead and do that with our sales presentation. And so at our next stage with the implementer, now we're starting to get in with sales professionals. You might have 1 or 2 sales people on your team, and you're constantly going through that revolving door of like, all right, how can I get my sales team to where they need to be? And so one of the questions I get asked a lot is why are my sales team not closing and always complaining? All right. Well, no news is good news, but in this case, any communication is great feedback, is something that we can work with. So when we look at why they're not closing, all right, one of the things of why they might not be closing is a lot of times when I would be struggling in with sales, I was like, man, I need to figure out what am I doing wrong? And when I would go back to the basics and I would look at every part of my sales presentation, a lot of times it was like, hey, I went right down to the furnace, started measuring up the equipment, and I didn't have that time to build that rapport. Or they told me they were getting 2 other bids. This is what I'm looking for. And we jump right into the product. And so we need to make sure that we're focusing on the steps that make the big ticket sales. And then there's going to be complaining, because mainly they're complaining in the fact that they're frustrated they didn't get the results they're looking for. And that's where we need to coach them. We need to pull them aside and say, hey, listen, nobody's 100% closing salesperson. And if they are, then they're in the wrong field, because their prices is too low and they're not giving enough value. So you're going to have some that you're going to win and some that you're going to lose. But more importantly is that if you're prepared to take that shot and do it effectively every time, you're going to get those results. So ask yourself the question, does my process produce the right results of a 6-figure salesperson? Everybody I talk to at this stage, I want to hire their salesman. I say, hey, I want you to make 6 figures or more. And so if we're going to bring in $3 million worth of sales and they have potential to make 300,000, we want them to do that. Okay. We want them to have unlimited potential. That's the salesman's dream. But do we have a process that does support it? And I don't always think that we do. And the fact of, we were carrying on the bad habits of when we were out there selling, and we're like, well, I don't need this. Why does this person need it? Well, you know what? If I told you, Cameron, to get out there and sell something, and with your background, you could only take so much. But if I gave you a presentation and it showed you how the value is and educated you. You could pass that, more importantly, on to the customer, which would then give me a higher chance of getting more in sales. And so we got to look at our processes. Is it set up? Do we have a sales presentation? Do we have an exact process of going into the home? Do we have a great follow-up process? All these things are important that gets us those six-figure goals.
Correct. And Dave, we have our second question of the day. This question comes from Rob. He says, I'm actually in this stage now. Should I have each one of my salesmen, which are two, focus on a different residential or commercial sales? We are a small business. Keep that in mind.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great question, especially wherever you focus a lot of your revenue goals to get in. Commercial and residential are two different in this industry. One is going to affect you in a different amount of time. The other one is building that relationship with that contact and how you can support them through the project. It might not just be one day, it might be multiple systems over a long period of time. And so I like to separate them in the fact that now you give yourself somebody who can really hone in on the sales presentation and process that you'll get in residential. And then the other one in commercial, you're building that relationship. You're in constant communication. You're figuring out, what is it that they need to get to the decision maker, because you're not dealing with the decision maker, but you can support them. They feel value so that when they pull it on to their board or their manager to get approved, that process is supported. And so there are two different ways of selling. And so I do encourage, but you can have somebody do it that can handle both. It's just you got to put your hat on. Okay, I'm going to do residential and I'm going to do commercial, and you got to. Those presentations just don't always go exactly the same because you're not dealing with the end result decision maker in most of those situations. So, great question.
Correct.
Great question there. So now we start to kick into the next stage, and with the implementer, one of the things that we have to do now is we have to look at, okay, how do we create an effective workflow, right? We're having meetings. People are like, with these meetings, they're like, oh, this is really good. We're talking about sales when they're good, but when they're not, we're using them as beatings. We're like, these guys are not getting me the results. I want them to get me more results. And so at our meetings, we got to have the structure to it so that they know where they can come in. We're dealing with salespeople. If not, we're going to talk the whole meeting. We're going to get nothing done. We're going to frustrate the people who are involved. And so at meetings, we need to review the important parts, review the process. And I don't think we all have it laid out as much as we think. We think we're doing an install. Okay, we're calling the customer the day before. We got the equipment ordered. We're supposed to have this done at this time. And at the end result, we're supposed to get payment. So all these things have to be communicated effectively. And a lot of times, what we don't do is we don't look at that workflow. And so this is a great example of a workflow sheet here that doesn't have to be very laid out in a fashy format. Just simply put to pen to paper exactly what you're talking about. And so what we have here in this sales process, from the time that it's scheduled to the end result of looking at reports, what are these things we're looking at? Okay. And all the steps that are coming out. So we know that, hey, we might be doing great on getting the job completed, but then afterwards, we don't have a great follow-up with that customer. They're wondering where their warranties are, what are the rebates processed. And so everybody needs to know where they're filled out. But this is a huge advantage when you're out there and selling to say, hey, it's $10,000 for this unit. We're just not installing the unit. There's a whole team back here to support that, from what you need to have done in your home to making sure the warranty is processed and you getting your rebates, is that it's a whole team effort. And so this is a great way to show, but we need to talk about this workflow. And a lot of times we don't, we just assume it. But once we put it to pen and paper, we can find out exactly, okay, at this meeting, we're doing very well at running our estimates. Well, what, maybe we need to give a little bit better time, maybe a little bit better window, or we're not accounting for, that the average time on the estimate might be longer. So we have to dial in on each one of these processes, and then it will help with our workflow. So it's good things. So now we're at the third stage. Okay, we have our salesmen, salespeople in meetings. We're running them consistently. We're trying to get more of the results we're looking for. Now we have to play that long-term game. And so as we're trying to play that long-term game, okay, how can I produce the consecutive sales over and over? We look at this a lot of times in like sports athletes. You get the great salesperson or the great athlete. They're great. Their first, second year, they're awesome. They're named to the all-star team. They're doing really great. They're on pace. Everybody's comparing them to the next great athlete, right?
Right.
But the problem is that that's why these teams are always searching and looking for other organizations, is because they're looking for somebody who's going to support that long-term great successful person. And so for you to attract some of these great salespeople, you have to have something that shows them that they can pass on to the customer longevity, but they see that you're going to invest with them long-term. All right. They're struggling a lot of times at this stage for the fact that when they look at this, they say, wow, you know what? I'm struggling with the salespeople. I have them come in, they hit like 2 million, and then they're doing nothing next year, and they're not being consistent. Well, you know what? Do they feel consistent? You know, if I have to sell something, if I have to bring value, I want to feel that this company's got my back, not just, hey, I did a good this month and next month, oh, I didn't. Maybe I might be on the chopping block. And so if it happens because we need these guys as part of our business, but then we don't like them when they're not producing. So we need to look at, are we looking at the longevity, of our business, and are we focusing on them? And our customers to produce that longevity. So one of the things we need to do more of, we need to evaluate every sale. Do we have a sales debrief? Do we have a package that we're offering great value to? And does it speak to that customer of being long-term? When we talked about it, when we got into with the stage where we were at for the Pocket Coach, and we were like, okay, I'm the salesperson, I'm in the home, I'm doing everything. That's great. But now that we're 10 years, $10 million later, and we're saying, hey, how can we get our sales professionals to do the same thing that we once did when we were just a one-man show? We have to bring that longevity. So when you're not selling 10-year parts and labor, and you're not selling that long-term warranty when you're at a Pocket Coach, then how are you going to sell it when you're at the mentor stage where you're trying to look for these customers? It's easy to get all your friends and family to refer you work, but when you're at a bigger company and you got more families to support, that's the stuff in 10 years. It's going to pay you back. It's going to show that, hey, now I'm on to my second, third system. And that's where customers just really, and salespeople really love it, is that they know that there's consistent repeat business with our clients, is if we show the value of it long-term. So we need to do more of that and support the long-term customer.
Well, Dave, we have our third question of the day now. We have a question from Matt. He says, when you were at your other company, Dave, at the mentor stage, how do you keep your salesmen long-term focused on what they need to do?
Great question, Matt. When you're at that stage, I look at it like they're partners in my business. If I look at them as just revenue producers, they're going to feel it, the way that I treat them, the way that I respond to them. So I look at them as to say, hey, you're a big, crucial part of the growth of this company, and I'm investing more into you so that you feel great in the home, you can do well with the customer, but also support our team, help me keep these families of these technicians, installers, that they're supporting to do the work, that we keep them busy and consistent. So I love to be in constant communication. This is a stage where I love to take them out. I like to have different sales games with them. If they hit certain goals, spiff them, take them out. Then after away from work and say, hey, how can we get better? What am I not seeing in the sales process that I can do better with? What do you see the competition has out there that I can do? And so this relationship with the salespeople, you have to, especially as managers, pull them aside at least once a month and have a good talk with them, and say, and even ride with them with some of their best customers and get that feedback from them to say, hey, how can we get better? But the more you get involved, the more you're building a relationship with the salesman at that level, the more they're going to reproduce for you. But you have to invest in with them. So great question, Matt. So as we come down here and close out with some of the key takeaways and learning some good traits about being a salesperson, is that one, sales is not about the money. It's about the people. And you know, we're all worried about, hey, what'd you bring in today? You didn't sell. Oh man, you're not really doing a good job. You know what? That's not good. We don't want to keep beating these people up. All right.
Yeah.
Yes, their end result. But if we answer the phone and we didn't schedule the call, well, you're just as important there as if they didn't get it, they didn't get a sale. Okay. All right. And as a manager, and if your team's not prepared, and you don't prepare them for a meeting, there's your end result. All right. So sales is easy to pick at fault, but we got to make sure that it's not about the money, because we don't want a hungry salesperson that's just about the money. We want them to bring the value into our company. So the other part is invest in them and they will invest in you. Like I said, take them out to lunch, really get to know them, find out what makes them tick, so that way they can help grow your business. And then most importantly, clear and effective KPIs. I can't tell you how much that I deal with salespeople on a consistent basis where they're just like, I love selling for this company. They do very well, but they changed my commission structure. They went ahead and they're telling me, hey, this job didn't turn out, so I'm not going to get paid properly. And you know, I hit this sales goal for this month, but they're still not happy with me. That's because we didn't explain upfront what does it look like to have clear and effective communication. And so that's what we need to do, is set those expectations up early. When you're having their first day, show them like, here, this is where I want you to make endless amount of money, but this is the value you can bring. And show them their commission structure. I don't care if it's a scaling commission structure, but don't have anything that's unclear for them so that they can learn how to grow. So yeah. So with that, those are some good takeaways. And one of the quotes I love here is by Nelson Mandela, is the fact that we look at sales as opportunities to grow. And, you know, as he says, I never lose. I either win or learn.
Right.
And so
That's
we
amazing.
don't lose in sales. All right. Even with basketball, as we're watching, you know, NBA playoffs, Stanley Cup playoffs, as you're watching these teams fight and do well. All right. They have multiple games. Okay. Just because they lost the first game doesn't mean they're out. All right. Just because they had a bad day doesn't mean they're done. All right. What do I have to learn? How do I get myself 1% better each time? And so that's where we need to focus a little bit more on that. So yeah. So I think it's very good. And that's where it's great with salespeople. If we can continue to support them, help them grow, invest into them, they'll turn around and invest into our company. So yeah.
And on that note, on continuing to support them, make sure you guys continue to support us, guys. There's easy, guys. You go to the social media page on Instagram, hit that follow button, and follow us, guys. We've got a lot of great reels on there, little teasers of upcoming shows. Make sure you go to our Facebook page. That's where we put our replays of our shows. If you can't get over to our YouTube page, Instagram, and remember, make sure you check out LinkedIn. That's where Dave's doing all his dirty work. Put everything up there for you, the fans, to see what he goes through on a day-to-day basis. All that and more right here on the HVAC Implementer Podcast.
That's correct. And then now we're going to switch to the second phase of what we do with our podcast. We're going to start to bring in where we can support with you, with our industry experts, right? Whether you get figure out how you can do best with your search engine optimizations, your marketing, all right? How can we get that better? We'll talk to some of the professionals. We'll talk with people who have been in the industry, some of your vendor manufacturer reps. How can we get those relationships better? So we're going to talk about things that bring revenue to your business, but how can we get them to get to us the best results we're looking for? What do we need to look for in best results? So it's going to be exciting. We're going to get to know some of these great industry professionals. And hey, we're all getting approached by these offers all the time in our business, but we need to be effective, not only just to buy the service, but how we can implement it. And so it's going to be great.